Hello, I hope you got a chance to watch the video yesterday, Big God. I do have to apologize, I made a big mistake in it. We were looking at the stars, 400 billion or so in the Milky Way galaxy, how God has positioned them and counted them and named them, and then the birds of the air, and then the number of hairs on our head. And with 8 billion people in the world, if there were 1.2 trillion hairs, that's still a lot, but that means we'd only have 150 hairs each. We'd all look pretty strange. I'd actually missed the 150,000. So we needed to times that 1.2 trillion by 1,000. I think it came out to like a sextillion or something. I don't even know. So anyway, if someone caught that, I apologize, my math was off. But in that vein of Big God, today I wanted to share the backstory of how the second trip to Israel this year came about. Just ridiculous, impossible, and not what happened, but how it came about. And so I was, must have been July, I was in the basement. I was reading this book by Lydia Prince, Derek Prince's first wife. It's called Appointment in Jerusalem. She was a teacher in Denmark, I think it was 1926, maybe 1936. And she was born again, baptized as an adult, which was a no-no then for a Lutheran, and met some crazy charismatics. And she ended up leaving her family, leaving her career behind, leaving her marriage proposal on the table, and moved to Jerusalem of all places, back before Israel, existed in the natural. And had this crazy adventure, this stories and testimonies of how she was led by Holy Spirit to step out and to do the impossible. And while I'm reading this book, God speaks to me and he says, I want you to take people to Israel, and I want you to organize prayer in Jerusalem for Israel and invite people from all over the world. I stopped, I thought, almost like Sarai. And I thought, what? You want me to do what? Do you know who you're talking to? Like, I don't know nobody. Like, how would you do that? That's impossible. What? You want me to do? Literally, I'm just like, oh my gosh, God, are you serious? What? How? And I must have been, literally so cool. 3 or 4 minutes later, I get a text from a businessman that we'd met at the Broadmoor. We'd been down there with the kids looking at the Christmas lights and the gingerbread house. Anyway, I'd met this guy and we'd exchanged numbers, and we'd met for lunch once, and he chipped into an outreach we were doing for a family around Christmas time. And he texted me, so this is like 4 or 5 minutes after I get this bombshell dropped on me by God, telling me to do the impossible, and I'm just literally shell-shocked. And I get this text saying, Tim, I wanted to connect you with my son, David. He's working full-time with Jews in America. And I thought, wow, this is God. This is a divine thing. Yes, absolutely. How soon can you come over? Let's have you and your wife and your son and his wife come over for dinner. So it must have been 4 or 5 days later they came over for dinner. But in the meantime, between the phone call and when they actually came over, God spoke to me 3 other times, very interesting. He said to me, conference, just one word. I got it, okay, I got it, conference. Which conference, where? Like, that was it, just trying to get my attention. And then I think it was the next day, he said again, conference. Like, what, conference? There's a conference you want me to go to? Like, you want me to organize a conference? Nothing else, that was it. And I think it was the 3rd day, he said to me, conference, Colorado. As if you're speaking to somebody that's kind of deaf and maybe partially hearing or distracted. Conference, Colorado. I thought, okay, there's a conference you want me to go to in Colorado. Like, what conference, Lord, what conference? And then so Dan and Linda and David and Izza came over. Well, lo and behold, David is working for Turn Ministries with Jeremy Jacobs in Colorado Springs. And they were organizing a conference in Castle Rock, Colorado, about 10 days later after we had the dinner. And it was called The Stand, about standing with Israel. So that was a no-brainer. I realized, okay, you're really helping me here. I need to go to this conference. So I went to the conference, and the last night of the conference, it was so profound. A gentleman called Don Finto, 95 years old, I think. He'd written a book, probably several, but I picked up his book, Your People Will Be My People. Just learning, God, what does this mean? What is it you're saying? Holy Spirit, we're admonished in Revelation, he who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying to the churches. And so I knew I had to go to this conference. So I went. The last day, Papa Don Finto preaches out of Romans 11, and he gives an altar call. And God, I think I can say this, God is kind of sneaky, and it gets me to this conference, and that altar call, so patient. The altar call was, if God has told you to do something, no matter how small or how big it is, to stand and support the people of Israel, the Jewish people, I want you to physically stand up and commit to doing it. And I thought, oh gosh, God, you got me. And I realized, God is saying, Tim, are you going to do this or not? You've got to commit to doing this. You've got to get past yourself, past your comfort zone, past what makes sense, past what you've done before. You've got to go higher and further by my Spirit. Will you commit to doing this? If not, I'll find someone else. And I could see like into the future. I could see the rest of my life. If I said no, kind of gradually doing this, nobody in the room would have known what I was saying no to, and nobody equally would know what I was saying yes to. But I knew that saying yes and standing the course of my life, the trajectory of my life, would do this. So it took me a good, 3, 4, 5 minutes. I thought, I've got to stand up. I don't know what I'm committing to. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know what this is going to look like. I feel like it's impossible, but I've got to stand up. I realized I was standing up not only for me and for what would happen through this trip, but for people that are listening to this video and watching this today, tomorrow, 6 months, a year from now. You need to stand up and commit to doing what God has told you to do. He'll help you. He'll come through for you. I'm telling you. It's this crazy adventure. Romans 8:14, those who are led by the Spirit of God are the mature sons of God, the huios. And it's that maturing process of learning to be led by the Spirit, learning to be led by Holy Spirit and to do what doesn't make sense. It's like he's calling us out of the boat, saying, hey, yes, it's me. Excuse me, come to me, walk on the water. I'll walk on the water with you. And so he's saying, get out of the boat. I stand up and I commit to doing this, even though I don't know what I'm committing to. And it must have been maybe 2 weeks later, I was sat thinking in the living room, and I suddenly was reminded, I felt stirred to email a family, the Schwartz family, that I met at the Western Wall in Israel in April. I talked with them maybe for 10, 15 minutes, emailed them some pictures. They wanted a picture taken of their family, them and their 4 boys. And so I take this picture, 3 or 4 pictures, I email them to the Schwartz family, forget all about it. Well, I felt like I was supposed to email and say, I just want you to know that we love you, that we're praying for you, and that we're standing with you, and we're in your corner as best as we know how to be. And so I emailed this family, didn't really know them, not even really an acquaintance. And probably within an hour or so, I get an email back saying, thank you for your email. This is so comforting. This means so much to us, especially on Tisha B'Av. And I thought, scratch my head. I thought, well, what is Tisha B'Av and when is it? So I emailed back saying, what's Tisha B'Av? And he started telling me a little bit about what it was, a Jewish holiday that has been celebrated or commemorated more appropriately for thousands of years, looking back and mourning the loss of the first and second temples and other suffering that the Jewish people have experienced over the millennia. Very poignant, especially looking back to October 7th, 2023. So we'd started this email trail back and forth, learning a little bit more about Tisha B'Av. And then Upper Room was having their first service in the new building over on 1911 Wall Street. And we were praying about going down to that service just for the weekend. And it was a Thursday night. It was about 8:30. We were going to have to drive all day Friday to get down there, rest on Saturday, do some fun stuff with the kids, go to church service on Sunday. So it was Thursday night, and we've been thinking about it, praying about it. And I happened to mention to this gentleman, I was talking with somebody in Dallas at One for Israel about this earlier today. And he said, oh, I want to connect you. We've got a family friend of ours in Dallas we want to connect you with. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. I spoke with this family for 10, 12 minutes 4 months ago, thousands of miles away, suddenly got prompted to email them, and now that he's got this family friend in Dallas that he wants to introduce us to, and right at the time we've got to make a decision on going to Dallas, I looked at Amy and said, look at this text, I think we're supposed to go to Dallas, what do you think? And it was, yes, let's go. So we drove down all day Friday, went to church Sunday, and then we met with this Jewish businessman up in Plano at a Starbucks for over 2 hours, and he brought us all drinks, said, check this person out online, listen to this guy, read this book, that kind of thing. Just sharing our lives, testimonies of what the Lord had done, and it was very moving, very, very personal gentleman, very helpful. And one of the people he said was a lady that we should meet down in Granbury. And so we called this lady on Sunday, spoke for 4, 5, 6 minutes, and she said, well, come on down, let's fellowship Monday. So we drive down there, hour and a half away, and they just hosted 33 IDF soldiers in their community. They paid for them to come over and have vacation, and met one of the people staying in their house as an IDF medic, showed me all the pins on his phone, the places that he dropped, about places that he'd served. He dropped these pins and he was showing me everywhere he'd served during the war. It's very moving. And so while we were talking, she says something about Byron and the Heifers, and I said, oh, Byron Stinson, yeah, I emailed him a couple of times, just brief emails back in March and April leading up to the trip to Israel with Digital Pastor Jim. And she says, oh, well, Byron just lives down the road. Her Texas accent is a terrible version of it, but I thought, no, he doesn't. Byron lives down the road, are you kidding me? She gets her cell phone out, calls Byron, and says, Byron, I got this family here, this young man, the Lord's doing something with them. I think you guys are supposed to meet. So she said, they were out having dinner, so she called back in 20 minutes. And then she hands me her cell phone and says, hey, you talk to Byron. I'm thinking, what are you doing? This is crazy. So we ended up going down and sitting with Byron. The kids hadn't had dinner and I hadn't, but the kids and Erin, their daughter, and Amy sat around the kitchen island having dinner. Byron and I sat on the couch for about 2 hours, just talking about Israel, listening and sharing. So I told him this crazy thing that the Lord had said to me, take people to Israel and organize prayer in Jerusalem for Israel and invite people from all over the world. And he says, well, listen to this person, check this guy out, and look up Eagle's Wings Ministries and Bishop Robert Stearns. They've been praying in Jerusalem for Israel the first Sunday of every October, doing this for 20 years. Jack Hayford and Bishop Stearns, I think, started it back in 2004. So anyway, it must have been, we came back up to Colorado Springs after being in Dallas for the weekend, long weekend. We extended our stay so we could meet with this lady and her husband, her family down in Granbury. So we're back in Colorado Springs, and I realized, I stood up. I got to do this. I got to man up. I got to take these steps. And so I booked my ticket, and I looked at the calendar, and I just looked and thought, Lord, when am I supposed to go? And what stood out to me was September 30th through October 10th. So I booked the ticket, and then I thought, I need to check out this Eagle's Wings ministry. And when the Lord told me this, to invite people from all around the world, I emailed a bunch of ministries. None of them got back to me other than Eagle's Wings Ministries. And so, I started doing these YouTube videos. There was a pretty good response to those, but none of the ministries got back to me. Any way I could think of, I'm going to promote this invitation. And so they got back in touch with me. But when I looked at their website, I was blown away that they were going to be in Jerusalem or in Israel from September 30th through October 10th. And they were saying this is going to be our most significant trip. I think it was the 20th anniversary. The timing was amazing, just over the 1-year anniversary of October 7th. So I thought, wow, it might be tense, it might be difficult, but I'm going to go. I'm going to do this, Lord. You said to do this, and it's coming together. So we drove back up to Colorado Springs, got the ticket booked, and then got in touch with them. They got back in touch with me, spoke with me for 20 minutes, said, yeah, come and join us at Christchurch, join us on the Rampart walks. And then just amazing how Holy Spirit had weaved this whole thing together. But I encourage you with this, that Romans 8:14 says the mature sons of God are led by the Spirit of God, and God is inviting us to learn to be led by the Spirit. The Spirit and the flesh are contrary to one another. Sometimes we rationalize things and think it through and overthink it, and God's saying, look, just go for it. There's an ancient Chinese proverb that says the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, with the first step. And I think it's in Nehemiah, it's somewhere in there, that he says that don't despise small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. We've got to start with those small promptings. Don't quench the Holy Spirit. Ask him for a second and third chance. When you feel like you're supposed to turn left instead of right, you're supposed to wait instead of go. Take 3, 4, 5 minute segments during your day and just stop and say, Holy Spirit, I'm listening. Holy Spirit, what is it you're saying? He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying to the churches. That's how we ultimately grow. We hear, we step out, we hear, we step out. We learn the movements of the Holy Spirit. We learn not to quench him, we learn to be led by him. It's kind of like this motion starts to develop where we're led by him, almost like a dance in a way. And so just amazing, absolutely amazing, the divine appointments that happened. There's a video I did of that, the Israel update. It was probably a couple of months ago. Go back and check that. But I want to encourage you, almost exhort you to follow those promptings of the Holy Spirit and see where he'll take you. And I wanted to share this on the heels of the Big God video. We serve an awesome God. A lot going on in the world right now, but he has many things to say to us. He has much for us to do. Good works which he prepared for us before the foundation of the world. And so I encourage you to step out. So thanks for watching. If you made it this far into the video, miracles do happen. I hope you enjoyed the story, were inspired by it. If you want to like these, share them. I think it'd be a blessing to a lot of people. And so I just wanted to recap. What had God said? Take people to Israel, organize prayer in Jerusalem for Israel, and invite people from all over the world. It took me coming to a place of basically standing and saying, God, I don't know how to do this. Humility. But yes, I will do this with your help. God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And literally the impossible happened, guys, to the glory of God. I'm a donkey that got lost, but he led me. You know what I'm saying? Along the way, I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. I didn't feel like I was qualified. Didn't feel like I was equipped. But when we have the Holy Spirit and we're being led by him, we have everything we need. And this is the day, this is the hour we're called to step up and to step out. God's going to work through the elderly, the young, and everybody in between. It's the prophecy of Joel where he's going to pour out his Spirit on all flesh. Young men will, how does it say it? Old men will dream dreams, young men will have visions. Even on my men servants and my maid servants, I will pour out my Spirit. God is looking, his eyes roam to and fro throughout the whole world, seeking those on whose behalf he can show himself strong, or seeking those whose heart is loyal towards him. It doesn't mean you're going to get it perfect, guys. It doesn't mean it's going to look great right out the gate, but it's a willingness, it's obedience. In Isaiah 66, God says, on this one will I look, him who is humble and of a contrite heart and who trembles at my word. And so that was the invitation to me. Take people to Israel, organize prayer in Israel, in Jerusalem for Israel, and invite people from all over the world. Well, the outcome, and it's in the other video in more detail, but approximately 90,000 views of shorts, videos and live streams from people from over 60 countries all around the world through doing a YouTube live stream. We ended up getting over 1,000 subscribers, which was ridiculous. We hadn't had the channel more than a couple of months, but it all came together, and it took the grace of God, it took the power of God, but it took our obedience and our willingness to step out. And so I'm encouraging you today to step out. I'm encouraging you to be obedient and to be led and say, God, I'm willing. Whatever you say, I will do it, like Mary said to the servants at the wedding. Whatever he says to you, do it. I'll leave you with that. God bless you.